This is the second part of a two-part movie about our trip to Patagonia. Starts out March 11th, and we're sort of marooned offshore from Punta Arenas for about 5 hours because the wind is blowing so hard that our ship can't land. The crew feeds us a really nice lunch, and everyone chills out pretty well. Around 5 p.m., which was 6 hours late, we landed at Punta Arenas to be met with our new bus and our new local guide, Patricia, who was probably our favorite guide outside of Maria Elena. Then we took a really boring, quite long bus ride, stopping finally in Puerto Natales to have lunch at dinner at Donna Jorge's, which was awful. It wasn't a dog's dinner exactly, but Edie thought it was and ended up feeding most of hers to a dog outside the restaurant. We got into Rio Sereno after midnight on March 12th and had a pretty good night's sleep. We woke up the next morning. This was the view out our hotel room, the Torres del Paine range. A beautiful set of mountains. After breakfast, we moved out to the front of the hotel to get on our buses and were greeted by all these horses from a local riding stable that apparently just walk around loose. They were real friendly, real easy to get next to. But then it was back on the bus and we headed into the park. As we drove up the hill above the valley, we looked back on the Rio Sereno River and the really beautiful valley it lies in. Apparently it's named after an infamous outlaw of the last century. There's a panorama shot. That's our hotel down there. And that's Edie and I. Then we went to Lago Grey Hotel and had lunch, which was really a very nice lunch. After which we walked about
Only
3/4 of a mile, ending up at this rickety suspension bridge that only held 6 people at a time. After crossing the bridge, we walked along this lake on a pretty gravelly beach. The lake was really beautiful and had a number of Volkswagen-sized icebergs floating out in it. It was surrounded by these great mountains. Very cold water. Very cold day. The wind was really blowing. So we probably walked a half mile or more along this beach. There was a bluff at the end of the beach, and about half the group climbed up it, including Edie. Just took these pictures. It was probably worth the climb, but I was just exhausted. We still had to walk back. Then we got back on the bus and drove through the beautiful Patagonia countryside. Or saw very many other people. As you can see, the wind was really blowing. When we got back to the hotel late that afternoon, we found a barbecued lamb waiting for us. Maria Elena grabbed a large butcher knife and started whacking off hunks of it and handing them out, which we ate with our hands, standing in the fading sunlight. Then we had pisco sours and watched the light change and discussed the day. After which we went inside, where we had a great deal more food. which we ate as much of as we could. At least I did. The next morning, after breakfast, we gathered in the lobby. Then we boarded our deluxe bus, headed into Torres del Paine National Park. A really, really beautiful place. We made a lot of stops along the way, including to look at this building, which was the first hotel in the park. These are some of our fellow travelers. Then we saw guanacos. Guanacos were a complete surprise to me. There's between 400 and 600,000 of them down there. They travel in two groups.
Little dance here
One
on the
group
left.
will be all males, and another group will be all females with one male who does the breeding and is the alpha male, obviously. Real interesting animals, almost semi-tame. There's also cougars down here, which apparently eat the guanacos when they can catch them. These are rayas. They're a large flightless bird that look just like ostriches and in fact are related to ostriches. So we spent quite a lot of time pulled over to the side of the road watching these herds of maybe 50 to 75 animals. Got quite near them sometimes. They were real fun to watch.
It's like the zebras.
Make some room here.
The heck is it?
Dry, barren landscape to make a living at. But they look like they're pretty healthy. Then we stopped at this waterfall for about 45 minutes and walked around. Patricia was really concerned that the wind was going to blow one of us off into the water. Patricia weighed about 95 pounds, so you can understand where her concern came from. She played these vibrato things for us a couple of times, a real pleasant sound. March 14th, and we're up with the sunrise to watch it coming up over the mountains. Well worth getting up early for. This is our last day, and after breakfast we said goodbye to the horses as we headed off, heading for Punta Arenas via Puerto Natales. It's a long, long drive. We spent a couple of hours on our own wandering around Puerto Natales. We walked down to the waterfront where we found this pretty interesting statue. After lunch, we got back on the bus. We passed this truck that blew over, I guess. Pretty good winds here. And again, it was a long, boring drive. We finally arrived at the Punta Arenas airport where we had a less than satisfactory dinner and flew into Puerto Natales. We stopped on the bus and looked out at the sky that night at the Southern Cross. Never seen it before. That next day, March 15th, we headed off for the Vicente Rosales National Park in the Osorno volcano. We stopped here for a short bathroom break, and one of our party fell and broke several ribs, which delayed us quite a bit, and delayed her quite a bit longer. We finally got an ambulance and took her back to town, and we got back on the bus. And headed off for the Osorno volcano with Miguel, our new local guide, Maria Elena having gone back to the hospital with the injured woman. When we got to the volcano, Edie and I got on a chairlift and rode up about halfway to the top. It was an okay view. clearly see that this is a volcano. This is all cinders down below us here. Then we had a lunch with the obligatory pisco sours and headed off for yet another waterfall. This one, the Petrahue waterfall. It had some pretty good views of the Osorno volcano. Dinner that night was hors d'oeuvres in the lobby, and it was on Odyssey. Maria Elena brought her twin bilingual daughters to meet us. Then we flew pretty early that morning to Santiago. After breakfast, they loaded us into buses and drove us around town, where we looked at some pretty old buildings that could probably use a pretty good washing. We walked around for a while, including we went into a church. Then we split off by ourselves for lunch. Edie and I had lunch with Malcolm and Sally. That evening we went to dinner at Andrea's house. This is her father, Dennis. It was one of the best meals we had in the whole trip. This is Andrea herself. Very charming lady. The next morning we got up and drove the 70 miles to Valparaiso. We got off the bus and walked around a neighborhood that was just covered with these fantastically beautiful murals. This is just a sample of them. There must have been easily more than 100 of them. Apparently you need to get a license to paint one, which is a good idea because they all come out looking so nice.
Flores. 20 alfa Flores. And then what else?
Por favor.
Por favor. Well, I don't know.
Please.
And what is that? Oh, that's a white something.
Yeah.
Say.
I
can do the math too. Just saying. I don't know what the power is.
And then what?
Gracias.
Gracias.
20 por... Está bien, pues. Está bien. Está bien. Está bien. Bien. Okay, now what are you gonna do?
Santiago, we had our last dinner as a group. The next morning, the day we were going to leave, we had quite a bit of time to kill, so Edie and I walked a short distance to this little park that was near our hotel. Later on that morning, we got on the subway and went to Los Dominicos Market, which is a local handicraft kind of a place, real interesting. We quite enjoyed being there, did a little shopping. Then that afternoon, we gathered again as a group and bussed over to Pablo Neruda's house, who was the poet laureate of Chile. He had a real interesting house, built on several different levels with some fantastic artwork scattered around. Edie and I flew back to Miami, where we stayed overnight, and then went on to San Francisco. It was a great trip.